2, 1. Thinkerers, guys, we are here one more time. It's day 2 here at ISTE 2026, at least for us. And I'm here with my man, Jethro Jones. Jethro, say hi.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Yeah, so Jethro, you are a founder of many things, as well as an author. And would love to hear a little bit more about founder of B Podcast, which is a partner of ours. Tell us a little bit more about like why you started B Podcast.
Yeah, it goes back to me being a principal and feeling like I was not getting the professional development that I needed to grow and develop in the way I wanted. So I started my own podcast, and then over time, I wanted to branch out and do other things. So I started other podcasts, and eventually I had enough where I was like, this should just be a whole network. And then I started recruiting people to come be part of the network also. And our goal really is that everybody in education has a podcast specifically designed for them. And that's what we're trying to get to. And we've got something for teachers, principals, special ed, occupational and physical therapists, superintendents, did I already say that? Tech guys, everybody. We've got a ton, and we want to just keep on building that so that everybody in education has a way to improve themselves and become the best version of themselves that they can.
Very cool. And Jethro's coming a long way, all the way from Washington or Alaska?
Washington. Used to be in Alaska, moved to Washington.
It's still a long way.
Yes,
you took quite a
is.
long trip, my friend, and we're excited to see you here in person. You know, we have the opportunity to talk quite a bit, with Thinkering Collective as well as B, just in our partnership to kind of do exactly what you said, which is to get more voices out there.
Yeah.
We think it's super important to magnify great voices and great leaders in education and honestly get them plugged in to better work or more fulfilling work, or giving them an understanding that it doesn't have to just be the grind of the everyday in the classroom. So talking about B Podcast, is that your daily gig, or what else do you got going on? I know you founded another AI company from my understanding.
Yep. So Optimization Doc is the other thing that I do, and that is consulting with companies, especially locally in Spokane, to help them use AI in a way that makes sense. And a lot of people are like, let's use AI to like do things faster, which is fine, but that's really a self-limiting way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
Because when you use AI to just do things faster, you're basically taking yourself out of the equation. You're replacing yourself. And that's not how I think we should use this technology. I think we should use it to expand ourselves and make ourselves capable of things that we weren't before. And I think the simplest way to think about it is this: if you've got a nonverbal kid who doesn't know how to communicate, and you give them an assistive technology device that allows them to then communicate, it opens the door and allows them to do a ton of great things. That's how I look at AI, that it should expand our capacity and make us better and help us do things that we couldn't do before. And if we use it in that way, then it's an expanding tool and not a contracting.
Yeah, I was just thinking too, like we've had some conversations recently here around AI and how it's kind of driving us to understand where the work goes.
Yes.
Right? Like moving the work is, I guess, the term that Austin Levinson used yesterday. And I'm really fascinated about that. For you, like, where do you see the work going? And by the work, I mean like human, like, you know what I mean? Actually doing brain power thinking. Like, where do you see that next echelon being?
Yeah. So for me, it's really so in schools right now, let's talk about schools. We do a lot of assignments that are busy work. Kids hate busy work. Everybody does. Adults hate it too.
Adults hate it.
Yeah. And yet we do that because we need something that is fast and efficient for teachers to grade and assess and say, yeah, this kid did it. But our whole system is built on students completing tasks. And so, of course, AI is the perfect thing to help us check off those tasks faster. And so we need to adjust how we're doing things. And that means instead of having traditional assignments of go out and do this thing and solve these problems, we need to have different kinds of solutions that are go create something. And in the process of creating something, you should be able to learn a whole bunch along the way. So for example, let's say you're in an English class and you're reading a book and you want to create a role-playing game based on this book. And so you're reading A Tale of Two Cities or A Christmas Carol, and you want someone to be the character in that book. And to create a role-playing game, you can't do that in a semester in an English class. But with AI, you certainly can. But the thing is in order for you to make it actually work well and be an enjoyable experience, you have to understand the book well enough to say, that's the right choice, that's the wrong choice. So the way that our human thinking is going to go and our work is going to go is in judgment, in taste, in design,
Mm.
and being able to say, this is the right way for this to work as we are creating things for ourselves or for other people.
And it's moving school. Very good point. It's moving school, I think, too, as we figure out, right? Like we're coming to this crux where the way in which we teach kids, although it hasn't mapped to the real world for a long time, it's really now just almost fundamentally different. And so I think we're moving more towards how do we stoke innovation within students
Mhm.
as a macro, right? Like, and then working backwards from that is, yeah, I think, deploying more curiosity. Kids need to be able to ask questions in school. And what do we do right now?
Yeah.
We punish them
Yep.
for asking
Yep.
questions in school. So it's interesting that that's kind of what you're deriving from it, because I definitely agree with you that we're really going to have to shift our mindset from the top down in how we approach kids, because we wonder why, we have attrition rates in schools higher than ever. Well, that goes to show you, I think parents are now realizing like this is not working,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Well, and the question is not how do we stoke more innovation or get more curiosity? Those things already exist.
Right, right,
And
right.
we teach it out of kids. And so starting at an early age, and we need to change what we're doing as the adults in schools to foster that opportunity more and to not shut it down. Because right now we do an awful lot of shutting down
Mm,
because it's not in the curriculum, it's not one of the standards, it's not what we're doing right now, and we have this false idea that everybody needs to be on the same page. And the reality is, nobody is ever on the same page. You can have two kids that are twins sitting in the same class, and they will get something different out of every single lesson
that's absolutely right.
because learning is individual for every single person, no matter what is going on. And so instead of thinking that we can somehow mass teach everybody all at once, we have to start thinking, how can I individualize for the kids in front of me? And the beauty of AI is that you can do that just like that. So you can have 20 different subjects going on in your classroom at a time. And the lift used to be really heavy to do that. Now the lift is much lighter. We need to take advantage of that and allow kids, in my opinion, to do more self-directed learning where they are accomplishing their own projects, doing their own things, and there's a ton more interdisciplinary stuff happening that it's not like, sorry, we can't talk about that because this is math class.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to go to your English class for that. That we just can't have that anymore.
And I think too, like when you have AI being able to, I mean, God, we've seen, I don't know, 500 different AI lesson planning tools
Yeah.
that map to standards. I think the nice part is, yes, that's there, but it still leaves the educator to inspire,
Yep.
to engage the learner, which is really, in my opinion, the core job of a teacher. It's not to write curriculum that meets the needs of a standard that's
Yep.
subjective in its interpretation. It's much more of, you can have AI craft all of these personalized experiences that are cross-curricular, like you're speaking about, but you still have to go through and really focus on the delivery. And I think if you couple both of them together, it's overwhelming for an educator,
Oh yeah,
no
for
matter
sure.
what classroom, what age. But now we have this ability to like get teachers back to teaching again.
Yeah.
Because if it's all there and they're, prompting whatever AI tool they're using to adjust specifically for this type of learner, and things are getting really refined now. We're working with a company in my preschools called Storyline that has eyes in the sky that track human behavior,
Mhm.
right? So really getting insight into how many times a kid does or visits the math section or it's early learning and I run preschools. So learning all of that information then helps the educator
Yep.
to approach and be more human. What do you think about where AI is pushing? And I'll get like really heady here, like the human race in general, not just on the education side of things, but industry and culture, and like where do you think AI is pushing us?
So
Get as dystopian as you want, man.
yeah, I mean, here's the crazy thing. If we're using AI to do all the same dumb things we've done before,
That's so true. Yeah.
then
Then
we're
what are
in,
we doing?
yeah, we're in a world of hurt, you
Yep.
know? And so like lesson plans, if we just use it to make more lesson plans that don't actually work, then that's terrible and that's not going to be good.
We've made 100 times more lesson plans.
Yeah. So what's the point there? There's
Right.
not. So I would say as it relates to where it's pushing us as humans, we have the choice to decide.
Yeah.
And we can decide if this is going to be an empowering, enabling tool, or is this going to be a restrictive, limiting tool? And if we, like I said before, the term I use is cognitive equity. We build cognitive equity when we use it to expand and innovate and create.
Yes.
We build cognitive debt when we use it to just do things that need to be done. And if they're not valuable already, they're still not valuable when we use AI to do it. And so we have to be, in my opinion, very strict about getting rid of those things that are not necessary.
Right.
So when I talk about AI with teachers and how they use it, AI absolutely should be used for anything that it can do better than a human being.
Absolutely.
And it should not be used for anything that the human can do better. And so grading, we should absolutely use AI for, because it can grade and say, this is wrong, this is right.
Objective. Yep.
Objective, done, very easy. Giving feedback, that needs to be a human thing.
Yep.
Because there's more to giving feedback than the words that are said.
100
There's the tone, the delivery,
Yep.
the way you do it. And if you can use AI to get the data to help you know what kind of feedback to give, then that's great. And that shortcuts the process for you, but doesn't shortcut the human part, which is, hey, I know you.
Yep.
And I'm going to give you feedback.
Yep.
And this is what it is about, because we are humans connecting.
It's
That's a
personal
lot
relationships.
different. Yep.
Yeah.
Lot different than the AI just being like, yeah, here's the feedback on your writing. And it doesn't matter because it's just the AI telling you.
Bullet point,
Yeah.
point. And it still requires, a learner to read and analyze themselves.
Yep.
But I think that going back to it is the most powerful computer still to this day is the human brain.
Yes. Mhm.
And, you're absolutely right in the sense of, if we're continuing, and this is the problem that I pose, which is educators, what we see is it's kind of path to least resistance.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about is AI informing, more meaningful experiences in class. But the reason why teachers are using it in this mundane work is because the mindset is, how do I make my job as easy as possible? Which I can't hate on,
No.
but it leaves this kind of crux. Where do you see there being a solution to empowering educators to actually understand that teaching isn't creating lesson plans? Teaching isn't
not.
even grading, teaching is all the secret magic sauce in between. Where do you see a solution there?
Yeah. I mean,
It's a big question.
the thing that's funny is that great teachers, the ones that we like all love and like remember until we die, those teachers, it has nothing to do with their grading or with their any of the stuff that we're typically pushing AI to use right now. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with how they made you feel when you were a student in their class and what it meant to have a relationship with that person, a healthy, positive relationship that is like, kids need these connections with adults that are not their parents, but they need them to be healthy and appropriate.
More than they need, the research shows more than they need their parents. They learn far more from external adult sources than they do from parental sources.
Yeah.
So it's very important what you're saying.
So that's essential, and that has to be nurtured and developed. So the question is, how do we give those adults the best information in the fastest way and let all the other stuff just disappear so that it's not a distraction? Grading, for example, huge distraction. We adopted a new student information system in one of my schools, and it took teachers 8 clicks to mark a student from absent to tardy. And so what happened? The teachers just stopped marking a kid.
Yeah.
They just were like, I'll just deal with it later. And so they didn't change that the kid was actually there and that they were tardy. So then we got bad data. So with like taking attendance is such a stupid thing.
Yeah.
The,
Toggle.
yes,
Yeah.
so ridiculous. There should be solutions there
Yeah.
to make that kind of stuff. If we have to take attendance, then what does that look like? And could the attendance look like the kid did something in that class and that counts as attendance? To me, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And the AI should automatically mark that kid as present. Because honestly, being tardy or not, that matters, but not as much as we make it seem in schools.
Yeah. And
So
it's a huge buzzword right now about, attendance in general, and
Yeah.
really read what does attendance really mean in schools, and why do we quantify at all these days that kids are there as it meaning something, as if like the learner is getting a better experience by spending more time
Exactly, yeah.
staring,
Yeah.
and really kind of checking out. I always think about like learners in classrooms, and the fact that, and we hear this from students all the time, is the student understanding that you as adults and educators in the classroom, y'all are still figuring this out too.
Mhm.
So trying to instruct us on like best practices and all of that, we're all figuring that out together.
Yeah.
We hear this term AI literacy constantly, right? What does it mean to you? And not just like, I know how to prompt. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
what's the deeper understanding of AI literacy?
Yeah. Well, number one, the deeper understanding is that AI did not start in 2022, that artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that has been around for a long time.
I think the 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we have a history of getting computers to do things for us. And a lot of what people who are starting to understand AI, what they're learning is that they can just have AI write scripts that computer programmers have been writing for decades also.
Yep.
And that it's actually, you don't need as much AI as you may think. You can do a ton of stuff with just having scripts that people who understood how to code could use and could do things for you. And so there are a lot of things that are very deterministic that always need to happen. So like, for example, if a kid walks into a classroom and you have a way to know the kid walked into the classroom, then you can say that kid is present.
Right.
And you don't need a fancy AI to do that. You just need a toggle that they flip as they come in that says this kid is present. And that's all that you need.
Yeah.
And that's a script. That's not even AI. And so the understanding of AI literacy is really that you need to understand that it is part of a bigger thing that is more expansive and has a lot more to it than what we currently think of as AI. AI literacy does not mean you can prompt. It does not mean that you can use an agent even. It means you understand what is deterministic, what is non-deterministic. You understand what is worthwhile in pursuing and talking with it about, and what kinds of things you should keep out of it. Like I personally have a real issue with people using it for therapy. I don't think we're ready for that yet, but a lot of people feel very comfortable telling the AI anything. And I'm hesitant about that myself and in recommending that to people, because we don't know what those non-deterministic answers are going to be and what kind of biases and training that it has had that could lead it to give some bad advice.
Yeah.
Which humans do right now anyway.
Right.
But the difference is a human is a fallible being. And if you trust an AI explicitly, then that is a problem, because it does hallucinate and make things up.
Absolutely. And we're kind of going from, which fascinates me, this, with AI literacy, this world of software as a service and pivoting into a world where it's software at your service.
Yeah.
So it's really, what's interesting to me is kids understanding this technology to a place where if I need an app, I build it right there and then, and I have it right there and then. And so that, to me, if you're building, like you said before, there's so much that goes into that process beyond just, a prompt with AI. There's innovation, there's creativity, there's iteration.
Understanding the actual problem.
That's exactly
of
right.
what you're trying to do, which is a whole other level of knowledge and wisdom and perception and all that. And so it's very multifaceted. And, when you're at a conference like this, it feels like, oh, it's all about chatbots or, or automatic grading or whatever.
Hmm.
But there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah. If you're doing it right. And I think those
Yeah,
are the partners that we, very much gravitate towards and vendors we gravitate towards are the ones that are not spending the whole time putting forward their product, because again, like you go into that vendor hall and there's 500 of, in my mind, the same product.
yeah,
And what the differentiator to me is folks that are thinking down the road at, how are we really using these things to inform our learners with an understanding of a future that we don't really even understand ourselves.
totally.
So, Jethro, thank you so much for your time today, man. It was so good hanging out with you last night at the Edmentum event. I made some poor choices, woke up a little hazy this morning, but nothing I can't handle. And yeah, if they want to find you and the work that you're doing out there, where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yeah, the best place is jethrojones.com. That's got links to everything else that I'm doing.
And we'll put it on the screen here so you guys can follow up. From Thinkering Voices, guys, ISTE 2026, we will see you next time.